And welcome back, everyone. SK versus Acer. I am so excited about this game. Acer has really been showing what a powerhouse they can be, running up against the behemoth that is Curse EU. Steve Jaws Jaworski alongside Josh Jat Leisman. How's it going, Jat?
Really good, Jaws, aside from the sweltering heat inside this theater, but that does not deter the fans. We're still a packed house here. And I was talking to some of the other teams during a couple of those games, trying to get a handle on what they think this Group A, how it was going to play out. And actually, Acer and Curse were probably the favorites going in, and it's really SK who's put on an impressive showing. If they win this game, they're through.
Yeah, SK especially, they had a little bit of trouble in that first game, but they came through against Meet Your Maker, and I believe this will determine who goes through to the semifinals.
So right now, it's actually, I'm pretty sure Curse is automatically through. MOM has lost both of their games, and both of these teams are 1-1. So definitely the winner of this team, automatic advancement.
Yeah, and with that Acer Curse EU match that we just saw, really interesting meta shifts going on. I believe it was a Nunu Jax mid, as well as an Ezreal as well.
The team compositions themselves were fairly normal. We had like a double AP on one side and then a Bruiser AP AD on the other side. But just the lane swapping was really unusual. I couldn't, there was the Morgana in the top lane with teleport, and they kept swapping up things like Jax and Graves over and over again. And it just led into a really awkward, kind of confusing game. And yeah, Curse was able to come out on top of that one.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see what Acer does in response to that loss. It was actually pretty even coming into that game, and Curse was just able to pull ahead. Extinct especially had a couple of really clutch bindings, and Slepper on Ezreal is just terrifying.
I think he's picked that both games. He's really comfortable on Ezreal right now, and the big thing about that was the Nunu Ezreal synergy. Really, Ezreal's one of the most difficult AD carries to close to as someone like Jax, so it's just a good, as you said, I saw in the interview, a good counter pick to Jax, because Jax can't really close to Ezreal, and then with the Blood Boil from Nunu, just too much damage really at the end. It felt into their whole composition too. They had a double AP, which gets everyone low, and then the really elusive, slippery Ezreal comes in with Blood Boil and finishes everyone off.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to also see a Morgana top lane. You don't typically see that, and we were talking about the match as we were watching. You're saying, I wonder why the Jax isn't going top against that Morgana.
Yeah. So, it was just really good play by Curse's Morgana there. I didn't think Morgana would be able to stick against Jax or Graves because she doesn't really have a way of blocking really any of their damage, but incredibly good conservative play by that Morgana in the top lane and just managed to take it over. And here, as far as this next game goes, SK versus Acer, I do have to give the slight edge to Acer, even though when SK played Curse, they really put up a fight. So, both these teams put up really good fights against Curse, the only loss being to Curse for both of these teams, and I can't really call it going into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And SK with 2 new members, it's interesting to see them really start to come together. And Ocelot, as always, a fantastic AP carry. And Yellow Star, really scary, especially if he gets that Corki. It'll be really interesting to see what they're going to be picking. And Ocelot actually going for a Gragas pick in that first game, going for a more traditional Ahri pick. He's really comfortable with that Ahri, but it was actually really nice to see Gragas back in competitive play.
Yeah, SK seems to have this revolving door of a roster. It's pretty much Ocelot and friends in a lot of situations. But now they're starting to get a bit more team cohesion and synergy. Kevin's been with them for a while. Nif has been with them forever as well. So they're starting to come together a little bit, and you can kind of see it in the way they play. They're playing very much together. Ocelot's back in the mid lane where he really belongs, and he's starting to play a little bit more aggressive, which makes him comfortable in the game.
Yeah, and speaking of aggressive, Acer really bringing the aggression. We had talked about this in the first game with those pink wards, and I really feel like that's what helped keep them in that game with Curse. Curse eventually able to pull it out in the mid and late game, but early game, Acer really giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, and Selivar on that Orianna as well. He's played it both games. Even though they lost that last game, I don't think it was on the Orianna play. So I'm hoping that Selivar plays Orianna again, because Orianna's actually really strong against kind of Ocelot's stable of mids. It's really easy to sit back and farm as Orianna, and it makes it really hard for Ocelot to aggress onto her. And just, every time we saw, even in the first game that Acer beat MOM1, the one you and I cashed at the start of the day, every time they tried to gank Orianna, the gank just got turned around, and that's what Orianna is so strong at doing. I think that would be really, really strong for them against Ocelot wanting to get so aggressive in the middle.
So you think we might see a Orianna ban coming out in this?
If SK is afraid of it, yeah, obviously, but Oriana's not your typical ban. There's a lot of key things that a lot of these teams want to hit. We're still on the Jace patch, so there's Urgot's really strong. We saw Shen dominated when he got through in the first game. A lot of teams still like banning Malphite as well, so there's a lot of kind of necessity bans, so it makes it fairly difficult for these teams to target bans. So I'm guessing that we won't see an Oriana ban. Just happen.
And as we see, first ban for SK Oriana. They want nothing to do with that Oriana from Celever. So scary. And Acer responds with the Gragas ban. I guess they were a little bit scared of that Ocelot play in that game 1. He was pretty scary. He was landing some pretty solid ultimates.
So yeah, all right, there are a lot of necessity bans, but apparently there is still room for the targets there. We see Oriana and Gragas coming out bans right away. Those were the target bans, so to speak. Oriana against Celever's mid lane, and then Gragas for Ocelot as well. Going down the list, Karthus is also kind of a power ban in a lot of ways. SK's obviously done their scouting on Celever. He probably plays a lot of Karthus. But aside from that, Karthus is just ubiquitously good in the middle lane, and that's not a very surprising ban there.
Yeah, Karthus with that ultimate being able to deal that extra damage and help convert those ganks a lot more cleanly. And the Urgot ban from Acer, as we mentioned, Urgot extremely strong in this patch with the swap, being able to get a potential carry out of position. And SK responding with the Kale. Kale, really strong top lane, able to really bully people in that early game.
We saw a Kale ban in the last game from, I believe it was Curse as well, so that's a common ban against Acer. SK definitely doing their homework there. Now we're through the banning phase. Really, the first pick for SK right now, I have to make this a wild card, and they'd lock in the Nunu. I really like that because it mainly takes it away from Acer. Nunu's been an extremely strong pick throughout this entire tournament, jungle or support.
Yeah, and you mentioned Malphite. Malphite was the last ban, and Arane actually plays a ton of jungle Nunu, so he's really comfortable in that character, and Nunu also being able to run that support. So grabbing him as a first pick, they don't really know where he's going to go. However, my money's on jungle.
Thinking back here as well, Acer actually lost to Vladimir last game. They're locking him up right away here in the second. Vladimir is one of those characters that can go in mid lane or in top lane. And I mean, last game we saw it bottom lane, but that was a bit of an odd circumstance. So really versatile first few picks here. We talked earlier about Corki being just a generally strong AD carry. You can't really go wrong with a Corki pick. There's nothing that really counters him. He has a very burst-heavy, strong, like range poke. He really has everything an AD carry could want. And then as far as that, Vladimir being able to go to either lane leaves their options open as the pick ban phase continues.
Yeah, and we actually saw Pookie style on Corki with the Janna in game 1 against Meet Your Maker, and Pookie style was terrifying. He was able to dominate early against a Graves lane, which is typically considered pretty standard, a little bit safer, as well as just being able to farm out, and Pookie style made sure that he had none of that. And it looks like we have a Kog'Maw coming out as well as a Yorick pick. Nope. Got trolled a little bit. It's going to be a Maokai.
So this is actually locking down some of the positions for SK. Now that they have the Maokai, it is most likely that Maokai is going to be in the jungle since you don't see much Maokai support. That'll make a Nunu support, Maokai jungle, and most likely a Yorick in the top lane. So that just means that SK leaves their 2 solo lanes open to be picked, and that makes a lot of sense for them. They got rid of a bit of deception when they did, take away the fact that Nunu could go in either place, but now they get to see the Kennen and Vladimir, know that those are most likely the solo lanes for Acer, and then pick their top and mid. They're going to have to pick their top and mid to go against Kennen or Vladimir because both Kennen and Vladimir can swap around. So Acer actually having a very versatile comp here. I want to see how SK responds to those 2 picks.
Yeah, that Kennen-Vladimir combination, really versatile, really as popular. You had mentioned. Yeah, very popular. They both have those area of effect ultimates that they're going to be able to chain together. And Pookie style grabbing Alistar, so we could very likely see an Alistar bottom lane as well as jungle. We've seen a ton of jungle Alistar this game, particularly from Maluna, who really enjoys those Boots of Mobility Alistar ganks. And looks like we have Aranite sitting on Kassadin. Will he lock it in? It would be really interesting to see a Kassadin mid.
Going back to that Kennen Vladimir as well, that's a team composition that those 2 champions combo very well together. The main thing is Vladimir can put down his ultimate, draw a bunch of aggro in the middle of the team, and as soon as he pops into his pool of blood, everyone just is attracted to wanting to go on top of that thing to finish him off when he reses, but that's when Kennen pops in, ults everything, and tries to finish it off. So there we have SK's final picks here. Kog'Maw to go with the Nunu, and then Anivia in the mid lane, a favorite of Froggen that is starting to be picked up by some of these other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Ocelot's going to be using that Anivia. Anivia is so strong at just being able to not only clear waves, but have that map control, especially in those jungle paths with that wall, being able to really cut off any escapes and potentially single out some members of Acer.
So this is going to be really difficult for Acer here. They now need to pick their support. The problem with this is SK's picked the Kog'Maw. There is so much to protect the Kog'Maw and so much to ramp that Kog'Maw up. They have a duplicate of Kog'Maw if they need with Yorg. Nunu is one of the best supports for protecting AD carries. Maokai is one of the most difficult tanks to get through. And then we have Anivia who just puts down slow fields with a wall. So if Kog'Maw does not get shut down, he's just going to individually kill everyone on Acer. I really like this composition by SK. They have a ton of great protection for two extremely potent damage dealers in Anivia and Kog'Maw.
Yeah, and as we see the swaps going down, something else that we didn't mention is that Vladimir and Kennen primarily magic damage, and that Maokai ultimate is going to negate a ton of that. So Maokai is going to potentially be able to drop his ultimate on top of Kog'Maw and just let him have at it.
So the thing with what Acer's composition is trying to do, this is a double AP comp, and what those generally do is they take a lot of people low, and then Corki's supposed to come in and clean up. And what's been popular to pick against that in the past is the Maokai, since his 20% damage reduction ult that he can put down in the zone is generally a large enough zone that you can soak up all of the enemy team's AoE in. So it's a really popular and smart pick for SK to pick Maokai against that composition. It's just a matter of whether Maokai will be able to withstand LoL Pro's counter jungling on Shyvana.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see LoL Pro, a lot of success in that first game with that jungle Shyvana. And it looks like we're going to have bottom lane Yellowstar on Kog'Maw with Nif. That Kog Nunu lane, super strong, going up against the Alistar Corki lane. A lot of CC, a lot of early aggression in the jungle. Arene on Maokai, facing off against Shyvana. LoL Pro picking up that Shyvana with that Smite Exhaust. Middle lane, we're going to be seeing Anivia versus either Vladimir or Kennen. They will potentially be able to flip-flop. And then top lane, once again, either Vladimir or Kennen going up against that Yorick. Such a difficult lane to push out.
So I really want to pay attention to what Shyvana does early. When you bring Exhaust on a jungler, that is just a signal for extreme early aggression. What happens a lot of these times, especially now that they're a purple team from the top side of the map here, is Shyvana will take red early and then potentially try to gank York at level 2. If you put the Exhaust down, a lot of time they can combo through and just kill him through a flash escape. So I cannot wait to see what they start off with in this game.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see this match. Overall, SK versus Acer, winner going to the semifinals. Let's do this. And it seems like both teams starting off middle, a couple pings going down around Team SK's Wraiths. We could potentially see some early aggressive warding from Acer. We saw that in game 1, and it looks like SK is grouping up. Super A's a little bit out of position.
Oh, man.
Does ward, however, great snare from Arene. Will Super A's be able to get out of this? Great pulverize. However, SK in hot pursuit, Pookie style, getting a ton of damage out on Arene. That was a great snare, forcing the flash and the pulverize out from Alistar, but it looks like SK is just going to back off for now.
Alistar fairly lucky to escape with his life there. He did get the ward down, and also he managed to spot SK's ward, so he knows exactly where SK's vision revolves now. The only problem with that is, no flash for the Alistar as the support, and they might be doing a bit of creative stuff here. We see Alistar actually coming up into the top of the jungle. Whether he's just here for support or whether he's looking to do something sneaky with the lanes is yet to be seen.
Yeah, Alistar actually starting with boots rather than the typical support fairy charm.
He might be roaming or something.
Yeah, he could potentially be roaming or just looking for that extra mobility. It'll be exciting to see if they're going to be going for a 1v2 lane. Corki potentially having a little bit of trouble with the 1v2 lane, but it'll be exciting to see nonetheless. Alistar, such a mobile champion with so much crowd control.
Yeah, unfortunately for Arene there, he used his snare at level 1 with Twisted Advance. Normally the start for Maokai is you stack saplings on top of your jungle for a fast clear, but since he wanted to get that level 1 engagement, he was unable to do that, which means his early jungle is actually substantially slower now, as you see Ocelot giving him a lot of help on Wolves.
Yeah, it'll be interesting
to see. Acer here with 5 men. They're looking to invade, and they show just a little too soon.
Yeah, the stun going off onto Celiver, and however, it looks looks like Acer's still going to be able to invade that blue, even though the stun went off. As you said, Maokai doesn't have the sapling, so he's not going to be able to jungle as fast. Ocelot trying to make something happen, but great early aggression from Acer that we keep talking about. LoL Pro picking that blue up.
Really good blue steal. I really love the delayed blue steal. That's what a lot of people have been doing lately. People scout their jungle very early on, but then they go disperse their lanes because they want to be there when the minions clash. So what teams are doing now is they're waiting till the last second to go in, back when everyone has dispersed to their lanes, and they're able to get things like that blue steal we just saw.
Yeah, and it looks like Super A's finally heading bottom. However, great ward from Nif, so he's going to see him coming down. It looks like the lanes have settled in as a little bit of early aggression coming down from Yellowstar onto Pookie style. Celiver mid against Ocelot. Celiver on that cannon. How do you feel that lane's going to match up?
As far as Anivia lanes go, Anivia does not generally get aggressive until level 6, or really doesn't hit her stride until that she gets that ultimate. So Kennen should do his best to bully here. He's in a really good advantage here because Ocelot actually pushed a little bit early, which means if his lanes get a little bit out of control, Kennen will be able to harass through that. And here we have Shyvana coming in from behind. This could be a very potent gank if Ocelot goes a little bit farther forward.
Yeah, Shyvana has that red buff, so if she's able to get a hit, and there she is, the speed boost going out, lightning rush, and the exhaust. Flash on Ocelot.
They need to egg him before he gets into the tower.
Will they be able to egg him? No, they will not. He gets out with a sliver of health, and the ignite goes down onto LoL Pro. LoL Pro also getting out with such little life, and a great turnaround from Ocelot on that 2v1.
Really close play there by Ocelot. The problem with that is, though, he burned his flash and his ignite, and Shyvana just burned the exhaust. So if Shyvana goes back to base and then loops around again and Ocelot is still pushed up in his lane, it'll be a kill for sure. Because even though Ocelot didn't burn his egg, he's extremely low health. So if they egg him outside the tower, it's no problem to finish him off in the lane. As we see a bit of counter jungling there by Erne up top. But that was actually a very successful gank by LoL Pro. Potentially disastrous because he almost died, but since he didn't, it's good as the gank goes on up top.
Yeah, 760 actually flashing into Erne. He drops extremely low. Will he be able to get him? Yes, he will, and that's a first blood for Team SK. Great gank from Erne.
Yeah, that was actually really sneaky. I forgot to comment on that. As he saw the Shyvana got extremely low, he knew that it was now safe to jungle invade or take whatever path he wants for a gank. That gank wouldn't have worked if he came up from the river, but the fact that he was able to come in behind from the triangle brush and just kind of flank Vladimir and give him no escape paths was why that gank was so successful.
Yeah, and speaking of aggression, Shyvana grabbing the enemy wraiths,
yeah,
sort of giving RNA a taste of his own medicine. Ocelot trying to grab that blue wraith, but to no avail. So LoL Pro already trying to put a lot of pressure on this SK jungle.
The ward caught LoL Pro right as it was dying, so Ocelot knew exactly where Shyvana was. That was just him counter jungling Maokai because he just saw Maokai top. But unfortunately, the ward was dying, so he cannot get around for the gank on Ocelot, though. Even though Ocelot is up super far, they might get a kill here. Yeah,
looking mid lane. There's the lightning rush and the ignite going down. LoL Pro going in, but not going to be able to make it happen. Celiver dropping to about 50% health. He's going to have to burn a couple of those mana potions, and they are really trying to shut Ocelot down in this game.
Looking up top lane, too, even though Vladimir had given up the early kill, he shoved that into the tower. Kevin is level 5, Vladimir is level 3, so him being up there is immensely dangerous as he just gets harassed down by Kevin's ghouls. He's just... Oh, I think Maokai actually got seen by that ward, so Vladimir has now a sense of security. He can just continue to push to his heart's content, and good ward there to see Maokai allowing Vladimir to play aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. 760, a little bit behind, 24 minion kills to Kevin's 36, but Yorick, such a strong farmer, and as you mentioned, 760 doing his best to put pressure on that Yorick lane.
So actually take a look now at all of the wards that SK has in their inventory. When they get ahead a little bit early game with those early kills, what a lot of the good teams do is just put that money towards map control, and you can really just see there a ward on Maokai already. I think Anivia had 2. Yes, he's placed wards on both sides of his mid lane, so he had to burn his flash early. Now he's warding both sides so he can continue to just farm up against this Kennen.
Yeah, Ocelot definitely aware of the fact that LoL Pro really wants to kill him, or at least pop that egg. And Ocelot just hit level 6, so we could potentially see some aggression in that mid lane.
And we see Erne now going towards his blue buff. There's a lot of pings going down as everyone just moves towards their wards. I'm wondering where the next stint of action is going to be. And actually, we have Erne looking up top. They're going to try to shove this lane far enough so that he can sneak into a brush. But he has to just wait here until the lane gets to that point. Kevin needs to hurry up and push this lane.
Yeah, meanwhile, bottom lane, Super A's was actually able to get Niv out of position, drop him to about 50%. So Pookie Style and Super A's potentially looking to make something happen in this bottom lane.
Yeah, with the Nunu Cog, that lane doesn't actually ramp up for quite some time. So it's actually Corki and Alistair's huge aggression here. We might see 2 ganks at a time here because Maokai's in the top rush and Sylvana's in the bottom one, so there's going to be a lot of action.
Yeah, there's the snare going down onto 760. He's going to be able to get onto the tower. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Exhaust going down onto Yellowstar and Pookie-style. However, Pookie-style's going to be able to pick up Nif. Great play from Pookie-style and that hyper-aggressive bottom lane.
I was actually watching top lane. Vladimir was just able to kind of pull away from the Maokai gang, so that was completely unsuccessful. Then Maokai walked through a ward, so that was just a big win for Acer because SK's gank failed terribly and Acer's gank resulted in a kill of Nif.
Yeah, that was also great early harass from Super A's and Pookie-style because they got Nif down to about 50%, and then they were ready for the gank when LoL Pro came in.
They really have to just be extremely careful in this Nunu Kog'Maw lane. There's not much early protection Nunu can offer Kog, and they get harassed down very easily by such an aggressive lane like Alistair and Corki. So surprisingly, after that death, the fact that Kog'Maw was actually up 7 minion kills means they're playing that lane very, very well because Acer definitely has the early game composition advantage in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and taking a look at the items, actually, it looks like Selver on that Kennen is grabbing a blasting one, so he's not going to be going for that Hextech Revolver, instead potentially going for just a little bit more flat harass. Meanwhile, Ocelot picking up that Chalice of Harmony, just going to be able to cycle his skills that much more, and Nif, he did die, but he was able to pick up the Philosopher's Stone as a result of it, so small consolation prize. Meanwhile, Yellowstar grabbing those double Dorans, so pretty even. Yellowstar 62 minion kills to Super A's and Pookie-style's 55, but we see a lot of action going down bottom. Pookie-style extremely low, and Yellowstar starting to ramp up a little bit.
Those item purchases are actually very typical of how that lane is playing. So Ocelot is not really doing any harassment whatsoever on Kennen and is actually just trying to farm and be defensive. So he has a Chalice of Harmony to take down Kennen's damage and to give himself more mana to the farm, whereas Kennen is not worried about harass whatsoever, so wants larger poke damage in middle as we see Alistair jump in and try to get a kill on the Yellowstar. They're just pushing them right out of that lane.
Yeah, Yellowstar still being aggressive, even though he's extremely low, forcing the flash from Pookie-style. So Yellowstar and Nif really not giving any ground, and RNA coming in and Ocelot potentially roaming. We could definitely see a tower dive.
They're going to dive if they can.
And here comes Ocelot coming in. The flash through the wall. Will he be able to get a wall down to be able to contain them? The stun could go out. There's the wall, and there's the ult, and there's the kill. Fantastic play from Ocelot as Selver pops his ultimate. Oh, to drop, to push RNA out of position. We could potentially see there's the stun. Selver dropping a ton of pain down on RNA, but it looks like SK is going to be able to grab this blue.
Shyvana actually smiting it over the wall. They had good vision of it, and there was no smite ready from RNA. They had no idea that Shyvana was on the other side. So really good patience there, camping on the other side and getting that smite off. Overall, though, really good roam there by Ocelot. I didn't think he was going to be able to catch, but he knew exactly what range his wall was going to be and exactly how fast he was moving, able to barely cut off that Alistair and give SK that early 2-1 kill lead.
Yeah, there was such patience in that wall where he took a long time to make sure he was perfectly in range, and it's showing on the scoreboard. Almost 10 minutes, 30 seconds, and SK is in the lead, 13,000 gold to 11,500, 2 kills to 1, no towers down yet. However, SK's starting to pull ahead.
Yeah, and the thing with this is SK's actually had much more passive overall play, yet they're still the ones with the early advantage. So that just bodes very well for them as the game progresses. Ocelot with the 1 kill already on Anivia. Kennen not able to put the harass down, has been able to get 17 million kills ahead of him, but with that kill, you know, that just takes the gold lead right away. And once they get Nunu, Cog, Yorick just rolling in team fights, Yellowstar is going to just be crushing. So the fact that SK is not getting shut down early means it's going to be extremely hard to shut them down late.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what Ocelot is going to be able to do. He grabbed the Mana Crystal and the Ruby Crystal, so we could potentially see a Catalyst in his future. Definitely going to be building a ton of mana. And it looks like Yellowstar has actually picked up a Vampiric Scepter, so really looking to sustain in this lane that has already shown that it has a ton of harass.
And we saw earlier that Alistair started with boots, but he's still yet to complete a Philosopher's Stone or Heart of Gold, even though Nunu already has his Philosopher's Stone and now 4 wards for extra map control. So that early kind of gambit of Alistair not getting the early GP10 has not paid dividends since he wasn't really able to create any action and is falling behind in gold.
Yeah, and also if you're looking top lane, Kevin on Yorick, 97 minion kills. He's finished his Mana Moon to Vladimir's 71 minion kills. Vladimir does have his Revolver. However, However, Kevin's really going to be able to start bullying Vladimir around, although Vladimir fairly strong once he hits that level 9.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, 760's done a really good job of staying in that lane. He died very early on to that Maokai gank, so the fact that he hasn't been straight up bullied out of the lane by Kevin means he's actually playing that lane really smartly. Aaron is going to try to sneak into that brush, but the minion is going to see him if Kevin doesn't clear it, and he's just going to have to walk away to a different gank.
Yeah, and Blue Ping's going down. Once again, that ward coverage.
No, he's going to go into that ward again.
Will he be able to get it? Yeah, he will. He will be able to jump into this brush. Great clearing from Kevin, and I would be really interested to see if Aaron is going to dive this.
Yeah, this is really curious because Vladimir has heal, flash, and pull up. They have to really harass him down, and if they tower dive, they have to be ready to stay there for a while. So if they're willing to tower dive this, they have to be in it for the long run. I think they're going. No, they're just going to zone him off the tower.
Yep, and it looks like Kevin trying to put that harass down. Aaron has that red buff. However, it doesn't look like he's going to use it unless 760 gets in range. However, looks like 760 is just stalling a little bit. As LoL Pro comes in, this could very quickly turn into a dangerous situation for SK. Kevin staying in, trying to put some harass down. Meanwhile, Yellowstar and Nif picking up those golems, getting that extra farm. Yellowstar is at 110 minion kills to Corki's 101, so he's a little bit ahead. However, Celiver ultimate going down onto Ocelot, Ignite going down as well. Will he be able to pop that egg? No, he will. Yes, he will. There's the egg.
It's in the tower, though, so there's really not much he can do on it. All he ended up doing is burning his Ignite and his ult for a passive proc out of Ocelot. So really smart by Ocelot there, and Celiva not able to really pull any advantages. It's kind of just how this whole game has been going for Acer. They are so close to pulling something off, but then they don't, and then SK gets another advantage off it, like this dragon. Kennen has no ult, no Ignite. Ocelot's full health because he got egged in the tower. Now they take a dragon.
Yep, and Ocelot is going to be able to potentially zone any Acer aggression on this dragon. SK looks like they're going to be able to take this dragon uncontested.
Yep.
And however, it looks like LoL Pro is going to try and put some aggression on that mid lane with Celiver. However, Kevin continuing to aggress Celiver extremely low.
They're trying to cut off Shyvana here. They know exactly where she went into the jungle, but will they be able to catch her as she runs up? She's going to ult over the wall.
Yeah, but Aaron is going to follow, getting the snare down. Ocelot going to follow. There's the wall. Fantastic wall. And will they be able to slow him down? Great flash from Ocelot, and there's the drop. Kevin's actually going to pick up the kill for LoL Pro, and that is a double kill for Kevin, and that is going to be a scary top lane as Yellowstar runs away from that Super Ace Pookie Styles lane. He's going to be able to get away. However, Pookie Styles able to pick up Nif in that exchange.
Yeah, Alistair and Corki finally caught Kog'Maw and Nunu outside of their tower, and they were able to punish them for that. Really a great job, actually, thus far by Yellowstar. Despite the fact they're down 2 kills, that they haven't lost this lane yet, and that Yellowstar's actually up in minion kills just shows how strong he's been doing. And yeah, you can see Corki's yet to be Kog'Maw's yet to power up because Corki just crushes him in duels. It's going to be a bit more time before Kog'Maw's able to take over.
Yeah, and Pookie Style and Super is showing just how aggressive they want to be. Pookie Style actually going between towers to drop Yellowstar extremely low and forcing him to back. So they really want to take this lane to Yellowstar and Nif.
An interesting build here, actually, by Yorick. He's got a Hex Drinker and a Manamune, and then a Null Magic, so he's really just building to counter up against that Vladimir. Lots of magic resist, really starting to turn on that full bully. So we saw the early gank they received in a kill. Then the next gank, the one that zoned Vladimir off the tower, even though it didn't result in a kill, was actually an extremely successful gank because they denied Vladimir about a wave and a half of creeps. And that is one of the reasons Yorick, or Kevin on Yorick, is getting that far ahead of Vladimir, and I think he's just going to continue to bully until that tower falls.
Yeah, and speaking of interesting builds, looking at Kennen mid, Celiver's actually picked up an Abyssal Scepter as his first item. What do you think about that item pickup?
Yeah, this is actually what a lot of Vladimir Kennen comps do. There's 2 really good items that both of them want access to, and they're Abyssal Scepter and Will of the Ancients. Vladimir already has a Hextech Revolver, so he's going to be Will of the Ancients, and then the Abyssal Scepters for Kennen. So when they get in the team fights, once they have those items, they'll be getting the magic debuff from the Abyssal Scepter as well as a Spell Vamp from Woda. So that's really a common pick for the Vlad Kennen matchups. It just alternates who builds which one depending on who has the easier lane matchup.
Yeah, and as we see Aaron picking up that red buff, another great ward from Acer that actually were some red pings going down, so they know where Aaron is at this moment, and just for both teams, incredible map coverage with these wards.
And that's kind of turning this into a very strange game. SK is the one that should be more concerned with having the heavy map coverage because they're the ones actually kind of sitting back and farming. All of the aggression by Acer has actually been turned around on them for an SK advantage. So it's really just good play by, that's actually kind of how Nivea works in a lot of ways. She's very good at turning around opponents' aggression, and that's really how Ocelot's been playing her.
Yeah, and top lane, Kevin seeing 760 in the jungle. However, this is a 1v2 situation. Kevin could be in a little bit of trouble. He does drop the slow. However, the Chemoplate going down. He gets exhausted. However, he has been cloned, and he will probably just be able to walk out of this because he's Yorick.
Really impressive. So I was just going to say that as soon as Kevin tries to get aggressive, he gets in a whole bunch of trouble. And now there are 3 Acer members up in the top lane. They're looking to either kill Kevin or just straight up take this tower. They're trying to make something happen.
Yeah, Kevin able to walk out of that safely. However, not without consequence.
Yeah,
as
bottom lane, they're
Lulpro,
taking a tower
Silver.
as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be a 1-for-1 tower trade. Top going down for SK, but SK being able to respond with that bottom. And Ocelot pushing up mid.
Yeah, so a lot of split pushing going on here. It looks like they're going to try to continue to push on Acer, and Kevin can't stand at this tower either, so they should get a second tower. And they're actually diving in onto Kevin. The Kennen ult, the Shyvana ult, and the Vladimir killing Kevin, and they will be able to take this tower. So a strong play. Going to end up trading that mid tower to Ocelot, however.
Yeah, great flash ultimate from Selver. Kevin getting a little bit too close, and as you mentioned, he wouldn't be able to take all 3 of them down, and they punished him almost immediately.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's not the worst thing that could have happened to Kevin. They managed to burn multiple ultimates off of Acer, and they were able to get the mid tower. And if I had to choose between getting the second top lane tower down or the first mid lane tower, I would pretty much always want the first mid lane tower. It just creates so much access to all of Acer's jungle. So the fact that Ocelot was able to get that, I actually think it was worth the trade.
Yeah, and looking at the score at the 18-minute mark, SK in the lead, 25,600 gold to 22,300 gold, 4 kills to 3. Towers are dead even. However, SK is looking really strong as Ocelot has actually just finished his Rod of Ages.
Yeah, so the big move here for Acer now is once Vladimir finishes that Will of the Ancients, which he has yet to complete, their team fighting is going to be at its peak because they will have the 2 ore items for both Kennen and Vladimir. They need to pretty much pounce then, because if they let Yellowstar get too late, it's going to be really bad for them. So I think as soon as Vladimir gets that Will of the Ancients, which they need to get to very soon, it's probably going to sync up fairly well with the next Dragon being up. I'm hoping Acer goes down and tries to 5v5 SK, because if they don't do it then they're going to fall behind and probably lose.
Yeah, especially considering Yellowstar has gotten that BF sword as well as that pickaxe, so he is building well into his Infinity Edge, and a fed and farmed Kog'Maw is a very scary Kog'Maw. So it'll be interesting to see if Yellowstar is going to continue to be able to get farmed. Meanwhile, Selver has actually picked up double Amplifying Tomes, so we could potentially see a double Will of the Ancients.
They'll be going for the double Woda eventually, but it's really just a matter of getting the first ones out early so they can win their initial team fights. Because if they can win the initial team fights on that very AoE-focused team, they can kind of snowball it into the rest of the game. As this Dragon's about to spawn, they don't have the Will of the Ancients yet on Vladimir, so Kennen has to go into this fight without any spell vamp. This is going to be a really close game.
Yeah, and Vladimir a little bit out of position in this Acer, so let's see who Arene is going to initiate on. All of SK is here as well as all of Acer, so this could potentially be a knockdown drag out fight for this Dragon.
Ocelot's going to want to wall something off, or Arene is going to have to get a good initiate. SK is actually fine trying to let Acer engage on them because they have very good counter initiation. Trying to walk through an Anivia and Maokai is one of the most difficult things to do in a team fight, so SK actually just waiting for Acer to go into them. They're waiting for Acer to either pull the Dragon and have the aggro, then go in, or they're waiting for Acer to try to jump on them. This is how SK is playing this fight.
Yeah, and there's the Dragon aggro, so Acer going to try and make this happen. Pookiestel does have that sheen and that fade, so he's going to be able to make something happen. However, let's see if SK, there's the wall from Ocelot, getting a ton of pain down on Lulpro. There's Selver with the counter initiate. However, he is exhausted, and the Maokai ultimate. Selver's going to be able to pick up Arene. However, Yellowstar is going to respond, taking out Selver, but Corki, Pookiestel, taking out Yorick, and wow, incredible play from SK. Double kill from Yellowstar. Pookiestel trying to make something happen, but he gets caught. That's a triple kill for Yellowstar. And
SK got exactly what they wanted in that fight. SK managed to get the perfect counter initiation. You saw when Kennen and Vladimir flew in, that was exactly where RNA had decided to place his Maokai ultimate. So you see all those SK players at about 20% health. If that fight would not happen in that exact spot, they would all be dead and Acer would be in control of this game. And they also engaged at just the wrong time for Acer because the Dragon was alive that entire time, hitting Shyvana over and over again, essentially taking her out of that fight. So a perfectly positioned fight for SK, exactly what they wanted, and now they have a fairly large lead.
Yeah, 21 minutes in, 31,800 gold for SK as compared to 25,400 gold for Acer. 7 kills to 5, 3 towers to 2, and a Dragon. So really great play, especially from Yellowstar. And as you mentioned, that Maokai ultimate was so clutch to negate the ultimates from both Kennen and Vladimir.
I really have to say that team fight was all about just SK's team positioning. And even though Yellowstar was the one to pick up 3 kills, he was pretty much just doing his job. Everyone else set up that fight so well for him and allowed him to pick up those kills. Kog'Maw is nothing without protection. So the fact that they were not able to get onto Kog'Maw and kill him was just why he was able to pick up those 3 kills.
Yeah, and it looks like Yellowstar has just picked up his Infinity Edge, and he is going to be building into that Phantom Dancer. And once he gets that Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer combination, he is going to be able to melt people pretty fast.
So the great thing about Nunu Cog as well, though, is the amount of attack speed that Blood Boil gives. So the fact that Yellowstar has it right now as they jump in onto Kennen, I don't think they'll get him. The fact that he has the Infinity Edge with the Blood Boil means he's almost at IEPD without even getting it.
Yeah, and Celeber dropping extremely low. He's going to get, dropped his ult, but Yellowstar far too strong at this point. 4-0-1, 164 minion kills. He has that Infinity Edge, and he is showing the power of that item.
So it only actually took 22 minutes for Kog'Maw to turn into an unstoppable killing machine, which is slightly faster than normal. And that was just because of the triple kill he picked up in that fight earlier. It's really, really bad for Acer at this point. There is such an amazing peel team on SK, and the only thing they wanted this entire game was to get Kog'Maw fed. And the fact that they were able to do it this early means that all they have to do for the rest of this is just protect the Cog. They can play as patiently as they want. The emphasis is on Acer to get to Kog'Maw, and that is what SK is built to defend against. So this is just really, really good for SK.
Yeah, and Kog'Maw actually, with that kill, just picked up his Zeal. So he is motoring towards that Phantom Dancer, and SK with almost an 8,000 gold lead, as it looks like they're potentially setting up for this Baron.
Yeah, so SK realizes how strong Kog'Maw is right now, and there's still no Will of the Ancients on Acer, so their teamfight potential still isn't max. I have to question that Haunting Guy's pick on Vladimir. He could have finished that Will of the Ancients, and they really need the teamfight presence at this point. So what SK is doing right now, they have the Oracles on Nif. They know how strong they are. Acer is kind of forced into constantly checking Baron, and SK eventually is going to get either a good Anivia wall or a good Maokai route, and they're just going to force back and forth on this Baron until they either get it by Acer conceding it, or they get a team fight when Acer tries to stop them.
Yeah, meanwhile, Kevin actually picking up a Spirit Visage, so he's going to have so much more sustain in these fights, as well as Maokai grabbing that Aegis of the Legion, so there's just so much survivability, so much sustain, and so much peel, as you had mentioned, just keeping Yellowstar alive and just allowing him to melt this team single-handedly.
Yeah, and that Aegis of the Legion is one of the most important items you can pick up against Ken and Vladimir. The aura magic resist that item gives on top of the Maokai 20% damage reduction just takes Acer's damage down so far. It really actually puts the emphasis onto Corki to be able to clean up things. But comparing Corki to a Nunu Cog just really isn't a fair comparison at this point. I really have to give the edge to SK based on smart team comp, smart play, and smart item choices.
Yeah, and at this point, Nif is basically permanently blood-boiling Yellowstar, and with that Zeal, he is hitting so hard and so fast. And there's the wall, singling out Lolpro. Will the stun go off? No, Lolpro will be able to get out of there with that speed boost. However, Yellowstar getting some pain down. Will they engage? It looks like they're going to try and disengage. However, Lolpro's still out of position. RNA snaring him. There's the Maokai ult. But Lolpro counter-initiating. There's the Nunu ult. Exhaust going down onto Yellowstar. Celeber trying to make something happen. Great flash out from Yellowstar. However, he is cloned. He has a sliver of health left, and yet he is still fighting. He is able to get a double kill, and he is dropping Super Ace. Pookie style goes down as well, and Yellowstar trying to finish off 760. Nice. That's a double kill for Ocelot, a double kill for Yellowstar, and SK just building this lead.
That was an extremely close fight for SK, and it just goes to show how powerful that Vladimir Kennen can be. If they only just had a bit more strength, I swear if they had that Will of the Ancients, they would have won that fight. And it's just a matter of Yellowstar getting so much protection. You saw that York ult going down on him, so actually for a brief time, 2 Kog'Maws in that fight doing a whole bunch of damage. Great flash over the wall by Yellowstar, actually baiting all of Acer over the wall to chase him. And at the end of the day, that flash over the wall and then Acer's persistence at trying to finish off like a 5 health Kog'Maw really just allowed SK to run around the rest of the fight and clean up.
Yeah, and Yellowstar also showing the power of picking up that Vampiric Scepter, because he had a sliver of health when he flashed over that wall, and even then he was able to stay in the fight and just lifesteal back when he was going one-on-one with Super A's. So all credit to Yellowstar, as well as Ocelot being able to sort of sweep through and use that great positioning that we've seen from SK to sort of save Yellowstar, give him a bit of a respite instead of getting jumped on by the rest of the team.
Now, Kennen actually is the one who finishes the Will of the Ancients, so they do have, on Acer, both of the ore items that they need. Although, unfortunately, I think it's probably too late. They're now 26 minutes in. Kog'Maw has kind of hit critical mass at this point. If they don't finish him off immediately, he will just finish off Acer's entire team. SK is going right back to what got them here. They clear the Baron wards. They're actually just going to straight up try and do Baron, and I do not think Acer's going to be able to stop this.
Yeah, and look at the attack speed on Yellow Star. At 27 minutes, going for this first Baron, they're almost 10,000 gold ahead. There they are, more than 10,000 gold ahead. 13 kills to 7, 4 towers to 3, and that is Baron for SK, and they're just going to be able to push down these towers.
Yeah, as far as this pushing goes, actually, they could get in a bit of trouble. It's really hard to dive onto something like Ken and Vladimir because your whole team will potentially get CC'd. On top of that, SK has a very counter-initiation kind of control type team, so it's generally hard for them to push in. For them to be able to push in this game, either Nunu or Maokai needs to get a lot of armor so he can tank tower hits, and they just actually aren't quite there yet, so they're going to continue to build this advantage before they dive in. You see Kog'Maw is going to the top lane to get a whole bunch of those free creeps as their team takes up a dragon, so they're just slowly taking this game carefully because they can. They're already ahead, they have a better late game, and they're just playing this safe and smart.
Yeah, and looking at this gold, Kog'Maw, 10,861 gold to Corki's 8,600. That is a ridiculous lead, and Yellow Star really showing that advantage. He just finished his Phantom Dancer, so with the Blood Boil, he is going to be critting with that Infinity Edge, and he's also going to have so much attack speed that W dealing a percentage damage as well. And I would not be surprised to see Yellow Star absolutely melting Acer in the next fight.
It's really just a matter of they need to get to Kog'Maw, but they can't because SK has such good protection, and that has really been the story of this whole game is how well they protected Kog'Maw. And at this point now, you know, 13,000 gold difference, they still have that Baron buff. They might try to make something happen and take down the rest of these outer towers, but I'd be surprised if they're actually able to get inhibitors on this specific Baron push unless Acer gets caught out of position and dies before that tower is defensible.
Yeah, and it looks like SK is just cleaning out Acer's jungle. Looking at Ocelot's item, he just picked up his Rabadon's Death Cap, so he's going to be hitting even harder with that Rod of Ages. He's 3-0-6, 242 minion kills, and Anivia late game with a Rabadon's and a Rod of Ages and a fed Kog'Maw. That is going to be a really tough team to come back against.
Yeah, looking at the power of them, they obviously, Acer's no way they can defend that tower. I think they can defend this one for a little bit. If they don't, though, it's going to be lights out with how well Yellow Star tries to take this tower down, and this is going to be very interesting. This is kind of Acer's last chance at defending. If this tower falls, they're going to be in big, big trouble.
Yeah, and Yellow Star also showing the range of Kog'Maw when he has that W active, being able to put a lot of pain down on that top tower, and it looks like SK may go for something if they get this next minion wave.
SK was able to get half the tower there with the last push, so Acer cannot give this up without fighting. They will go in to fight on this wave if they can. If not, they're just giving up the game.
Yeah, and a great stun onto Selver to push him out of position. Aaron jumping onto Lolpro, who popped his ultimate. Maokai dropping his ultimate as well. There goes the Hemo Plague. Yellow Star, however, in pretty safe. There goes the Yorick ultimate onto him. Selver dropping his ult right on top of Yellow Star. However, Yellow Star is res. He is just melting. Yeah, wow. And 760 going down right away. Ocelot with the triple kill. So Kog'Maw dropped, and Arane dropped as well. However, 5-for-2 exchange in favor of SK, and that's an inhibitor.
Yeah, it was actually a 5-for-3. The Yorick clone on the Kog'Maw gets him to die substantially after the fight. And that was just, what is Acer going to do here? They managed to get through the entire wave and finally get to that Kog'Maw. But oh wait, he had a Yorick ult and he's now doing damage for 10 more seconds.
Yeah, Selver actually dropping his ultimate on top of Yellow Star to try and make sure that he died. But as you said, SK, this team composition is designed to keep Kog'Maw alive as long as possible, even after he's dead.
So now 30 minutes, 30 seconds into the game, top inhibitor down, SK's back to the safe play. Their Baron buff still has a little bit left on it, but now they have that first inhibitor, Kog'Maw actually picking up a Guardian Angel, so he's even more difficult to dive on top of. I like that choice because with Nunu Kog and the Zeke's Herald, he's really hitting hard enough. It's time for him to start getting some of those defensive capabilities. It's just really, really strong play by SK this entire time, and Acer needs to do something special to come back in this game.
Yeah, SK 53,500 gold to 37,400 gold for Acer. 18 kills to 10, 7 towers to 3. They have that Baron, they have the top inhibitor, and they're really just going to be able to continue to pressure Acer.
Looking at the item builds, actually, there's really just been a whole bunch of smart choices for all of SK.
Cog just got a Guardian Angel.
Yeah, I'm really good for being able to hold off those divers on. It's just the Aegis of Legion very early from Maokai, the really huge amount of tankiness from York, because there's a lot of AoE that he needs to be able to live through as he's front-lagging for Cog. So the fact that he's picked up so many defensive items is really, really smart. And then just Zeke's Herald on top of Nunu to give Kog'Maw even more damage, and it's just all about protecting Cog. So they're not actually going for Ocelot, which is why he's able to build a Rabadon's Death Cap instead of the more defensive Anivia that you see someone like Froggen do. You know, sometimes he does Warmogs on Anivia. So it's just, they understand their team comp actually really well, and they're building for it.
Yeah, and speaking of Warmogs, Kevin actually grabbed a Warmog, so he is going full tank as SK sieges this tower. There really isn't a lot Acer can do. It'd be interesting to see if SK goes in for this initiate. If Celiver tries to jump onto Kog'Maw, it'll probably just pop his Guardian's Angel, so Acer really in a bit of a bind in terms of initiating these fights.
This is really tough. This is the same story as what happened on the last tower, except they're even farther behind this time. So there's actually super creeps pushing in for only one Nexus tower. Someone has to go back and deal with those creeps, and when they do, SK is going to push in and finish off this tower.
Yeah, and there's a flash pulverize from Super Rays. Lolpro jumping in as well. Celiver dropping his ult. However, there's the Maokai ult and the Anivia ult. Celiver drops almost immediately. Kevin getting a double kill, triple kill. Actually, could this be a quadra? That is a quadra kill for Warmog's Yorick. Kevin, complete beast.
And that's going to do it here. SK, everyone pitching in. I think everyone had a double or a triple kill at some point in that game as far as Kog'Maw, Anivia, and York go. So all of their big main damage dealers. Really strong play by SK, and they move on to tomorrow.
Yeah, great play by SK. Ocelot so solid on that Anivia, and Yellowstar terrifying on that Kog'Maw. So anyway, it looks like we're going to be heading back to the stage with Carmack to interview some of the players.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that in just a second, actually. Looking at some of these score screens, though, just they finally get the double will of the Ancients, but it was just too late for them.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with Yellowstar getting that Guardian Angel. He has that Vampiric Scepter, the Infinity Edge, and the Phantom Dancer. Just a real terror, that Kog'Maw. Anyway, it looks like in just a few minutes we'll be going down to the floor. Interesting choice before we go. Last thoughts on that Kevin build. Really interesting York build.
I have to say, he pretty much just built for the lane and then built for team fights. Corki really wasn't that much of a threat that game. They had so much frontline from Maokai and Nunu to kind of push past him that all York had to do was worry about living through the Kennen ultimate and the Vladimir ultimate. And with, you know, Hex, Drinker, Spear, Visage, Merc Trends, and a Warmogs, there's no way he's dying to that AoE damage. So I actually really like that build.
Yeah, definitely. And Pookie style trying to go for that Triforce Corki. He did get the Last Whisper as well as a Vampiric Scepter, but it just really wasn't enough damage, especially considering how many different ways SK had to keep Yellowstar alive.
I think that Last Whisper is a little bit forced. He was so wanting to not get zoned out by them that he decided to go for the Last Whisper.
All right, and it looks like we're going to be going on stage with Carmack, who has an interview with the players.
So Joe, we're here.
We are here, you correct.
Także wracamy. Zaprosimy tu na scenę. Let's welcome to the stage from SK Gaming for a short interview. Acer.
Ocelot, I'd say, well, I was sat right up there at the back, and all I could hear was you. You're happy with that win, right?
Oh man.
So, tak więc Joe mówi, że siedział na samej górze i tylko jedyne co słyszał to właśnie Ose.
I'm so happy, my team is so happy. It's like, man, it's like I know it's only go through group phase, but it's like a dream for me, for us, because we are working so hard, people cannot imagine. Even though we get so harassed by everybody, by the whole community, we get so harassed because we get people out and stuff. But at the end of the day, what do we do as a team? It's for the good of the team. And going through group phase is like, I cannot explain with words. I mean, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good, man. Honestly, it's so good.
Jestem bardzo, bardzo szczęśliwy, czuję się fantastycznie. Dopiero wyszliśmy z grupy, ale to dla nas bardzo wiele znaczy z uwagi na to, że bardzo wiele osób nas zaczepia, a oni nie wiedzą, jak ciężko my pracujemy i to jest tak wspaniałe uczucie.
So you finished second in the group stage. Actually, Curse lost their last game to Meet Your Makers, but you lost to Curse, so you're second place through to the playoffs. Who would you rather play in that semi-final?
Tak więc krótkie pytanie, z kim wolałby zagrać w półfinale z tej drugiej grupy, która będzie grała za jakiś czas?
I hope Ocelot World Team.
I don't think you need to translate that part. But talk us through that story, because a lot of people don't really know why Existence are called ocelotworld.net.
Tak więc wytłumacz, dlaczego Existence w tej chwili nazywa się ocelotworld.net.
Well, the thing is that everything happened in a window of 5 minutes. Existence, the ex-Existence team wasn't able to pay the trip and stuff, so it was like, Oslo, can you help us with Facebook and stuff for raising money? And there was no time for it. So I was like, I woke my mom from the siesta and said, Mom, I'm gonna do this. And my mom was like, if your heart says it, just do it. And as a grateful move, they used my name, basically. Like, it wasn't even the purpose of it, but it just happened, you know?
Tak więc ja dla tej mniejszości, która chyba nie rozumie, przetłumaczę jednak. Więc to stało się tak, że drużyna Existence nie była w stanie wysłać zawodników tutaj. Zapytali Ocelota o pomoc, czy na Facebooku da radę zrobić jakąś zbiórkę. Na to nie było czasu. Obudził mamę ze siesty, zapytał, czy to jest dobry pomysł. Mama powiedziała, jeżeli to w twoim sercu jest, to zrób. W takim wypadku właśnie stało się, zrobił, pomógł drużynie hiszpańskiej przybyć tutaj i będą grali dzięki niemu między innymi właśnie tu.
Well, Ocelot, I think I'll let you go and enjoy your second place in the groups and cool down, because you look rather warm.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do. We have lots of Ocelot fans here. Mamy wielu fanów Ocelota. There was an event last year here. We did a similar thing. Zrobimy falę dla Ose? Dobra, uwaga! Robimy tak. Fala jest od dołu do góry. Nie od prawej do lewej, tylko od dołu do góry. Ose wam da sygnał, kiedy zaczynać. So, we'll do a wave from the bottom to the top. Ose, you give the signal, okay? Tak więc wszyscy rączki do przodu. Rączki do przodu. I uwaga, i nie robimy głośnego U, tylko Ose, jak podskoczymy do góry, dobra? Uwaga, rączki do przodu, pamiętamy, zaczynamy z dołu, rączki do przodu, wszyscy, bardzo proszę. I szum teraz, szum na sali.
What is it? Okay, 3, 2, 1, come on!
Thank you, you guys are awesome. So we're going to have a short trailer now. After the trailer, there's going to be a 45-minute break until the next tournament game, until the next group. And jeśli jesteście tutaj, nie wychodźcie, jeszcze będą konkursy, tak? Więc warto zostać na